So Matt Mercer finally did it, eh? Finally, after almost a year, Matt Mercer has made a reference to EXU Calamity, the miniseries that debuted the last summer in Critical Role Campaign 3, and things are starting to heat up, guys. Hello everyone, welcome back to Fraud on the Telly. Join me today as we break down everything that happened on Critical Role Campaign 3, Episode 57, as our party delve into the mysterious secrets of the ancient elven city of Melasmere. Before we get into the video, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you do enjoy the content and want to see more Critical Role content in the future. Let's just get right into it, guys. So, where we last left off, our party are currently dealing with the fallout of Ludinus Delath and the Great Apogee Solstice. Sorry. After the events of Ludinus Delath performing his crazy moon magic during the Apogee Solstice, some crazy shenanigans with the ley lines have currently happened. We find ourselves with our party currently split. We are with one group in the town of Uthadern as they have made their way northward to the ancient elven city of Melasmere, buried deep in the Savanleer Wood, to learn information about one Ludinus Delath. Personally, I've been really excited for these sets of episodes because Melasmere is like one of the biggest Critical Role secrets, one of the biggest Critical Role mysteries so far, really since the Critical Role campaigns have debuted. But finally, over the last few episodes, we seem to have learned some vital information about this ancient elven city of Melasmere, a city that is shrouded in mystery, as sometime in the past hundreds of years ago, Melasmere fell some kind of great calamitous-esque event, the city being corrupted with strange ancient magic, along with the Savanleer Wood and ancient forest that surrounded the city, which is now also corrupted, making it an absolutely terrifying, evil, nightmare fuel place where normal citizens dare not enter for fear of being killed, destroyed by some absolutely terrifying evil baddie. This is really all we knew about Melasmere until a couple of weeks ago, when finally my theory actually was proven correctly. We learned that Ludinus Delath is most likely the person behind the great fall, the great calamitous event of Melasmere and the destruction and the corruption of the Savanleer Wood, as we learned through ancient texts that it seemed that Ludinus long time ago had tried to do the strange Apogee Solstice shenanigans way back in Melasmere with Ruidus for some absolutely destructive results. Our party have finally arrived at the city of Melasmere as they begin to make their way, trying to dodge ghosts, ghouls, and other strange, nightmarish creatures from the brainchild of Matt Mercer. Matt was really on one this episode. I'm a big fan of horror, especially horror in Dungeons and Dragons. If you are a DM or a DM who wants to learn how to run horror-esque game type scenarios, you can really take some really good notes from this episode, really the last few episodes of Critical Role, as Matt has been on an absolutely insane one with his body horror. Our party make our way through a combat as they continue to sneak their way through Melasmere, coming into a giant tower that sits in the city. Once in the tower, they begin searching, but realize that a lot of this area has been previously looted, which would make sense, as many people would want to venture into this ancient elven city, braving against the absolute nightmares that exist to try to find ancient knowledge as well as ancient relics. They do, however, stumble upon a ledger, a few sets of notes, one that makes an absolutely crazy reference to a very certain character from EXU Calamity. We don't know whose notes these exactly are. They very much seem like they could be Ludinus's, but we just don't know. The notes in question speak of specific types of magic, reoccurrence of magic and natural phenomena throughout the history of Exandria, i.e. the Apogee Solstice, for example, as well as countless other things that we know of, but specifically the Apogee Solstice is a prime example of this type of natural magical phenomena. They also mention elements and notes of people from history that would have knowledge over such events. Specifically, Matt mentions three characters, one named Vitora, who I don't believe we know anything about, another named Vishtaron, something along those lines, another name that I also didn't reference, but the last name is one that fans of Critical Role will know potentially a lot about, one Laren Coromir Sealy. Now, this is pretty massive because up until now, I don't believe there has been any other mention or reference of any other character of note from Exandria Unlimited Calamity, unless you're talking about like Vespin Chloras, which I don't think really counts. There's been a lot of mystery shrouding the characters of EXU Calamity, especially in our modern timeline of Critical Role, as we have to remember that the Calamity was like, what, 800 or more plus years, probably almost 1,000 plus years back from the modern timeline of Critical Role, but this is still pretty crazy, guys. I'm going to talk about EXU Calamity here for a second. If you haven't watched it, consider this your spoiler warning. And what are you doing? Go watch EXU Calamity, guys. It's probably the best content Critical Role has put out ever. Obviously, we know Laren from EXU Calamity, the character that tried to manipulate the ley lines during the Apogee Solstice, the character that destroyed the Tree of Named, a magical tree which protected Exandria from outside evil forces, preventing other entities such as, I don't know, evil gods or potentially god-killing star creatures from entering into the prime material plane of Exandria. Of course, then it makes sense that Laren would be listed as a character, a person that knows a lot about these types of events, as she did spend much of her entire life studying and tracking these Apogee Solstice, as she knew that it could perform great works of magic during these Apogee Solstice. Now, it does make us wonder who is the author of these notes that listed Laren's name, as we have to presume that they must have been alive when Laren was alive all the way back in the Age of Arcanum in the Calamity, or it's possible that they were making notes of Laren, maybe to reference her works and try to find books. We really just don't know. Obviously, the first initial response as this is Ludinus's notes, but we just don't know, guys. We have to remember that Melasmir was an ancient elven city filled with really, really smart people during the Age of Arcanum. It's very likely that there were other powerful mages besides Ludinus de Lath in this area, but it is interesting. As well, the cast find another text, what seems to be some kind of religious tome or part of a religious tome that lists notes of temple propaganda, inconsistencies of religious rites, notes explaining that there doesn't seem to be any real truth to anything that the gods present, and possibly the preparation of a speech explaining what is exactly wrong with religious rites. As well, there is heavy emphasis on the Matron of Ravens, note saying, who is she? What is her name? I must find her name. There are power in names. Now, this does seem like a safe assumption that this is Ludinus's notes. We don't know for sure, but we know that Ludinus is a very anti-god agenda, and we know that there is a little bit of an obsession with the Raven Queen, the Matron of Ravens, with some certain baddies in Critical Role Campaign 3. Obviously, Ludinus as well would be interested in the Raven Queen, as her form, her kind of essence and existence, in a lot of ways, is kind of validation for many of his anti-god beliefs. The Raven Queen was once a mortal, an ancient wizard, one that's even referenced in EXU Calamity, as if I remember correctly, Marisha's character had some kind of a relationship with the woman that would become the Raven Queen whenever Marisha's character was a small child. Obviously, because she was once a mortal and then ascended to godhood, dethroning the former god of death, she must have had a mortal name. Whenever she rose to godhood, all record and all knowledge of her name and who she was as a person was wiped out. But that doesn't mean that there might be a way to find her name, and we know about the power of names in Dungeons & Dragons and really just fantasy lore. I imagine if one were to find the name of the Raven Queen, it would make it potentially possible to bind them onto the material plane of Exandria, possibly for whatever horrible deeds that one Ludinus de Lath could go down. To me, this very much seems like a teaser for potential future bad guy events that will happen in the future of Campaign 3. We've had a lot of references to Raven Queen stuff. The Raven Queen is extremely important in Critical Role lore, and to me, this very much feels like a little bit of foreshadowing here to possibly future events and future plans for one Ludinus de Lath. Finally, our episode ends as our cast once again are faced with another absolutely horrifying creature in combat, but we'll have to wait until next week to see how this plays out. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I was a little disappointed that this episode ended so early, as we just were getting finally the tip, finally a little bit, a taste of lore knowledge into Melasmir, into this ancient mystery and the history of Ludinus de Lath. Finally, the webs of lies, the webs of lore are starting to unravel for us, and I'm super, super excited. I just can't wait to learn more. It very much seems like we're going to get a big old lore dump next week on next episode of Critical Role, as I imagine next week's episode probably would be the last episode that is with this specific group of the party, as we must remember that once they return from Melasmir, presuming they don't TPK and die while they're out there, they will be transported back to Marquette to rendezvous with the other half of our group, which I imagine then that we're going to have a good, 5 to 7 episodes of what has been going on with the Marquette group during the time that we've spent with the group in Uthadern. Who really only knows what the heck is going on with our other group in Marquette? Only time will tell. I imagine some absolutely absurd stuff, as they are basically ground zero on this binding of Ruidus, this extending of the apogee solstice, and this changing of the ley lines. As much as I wish we would have gotten more lore, more juicy lore this episode, it was a good episode, and I can't wait until the next episode of Critical Role. Let me know in the comments down below, guys, all your guys' thoughts and speculation from this week's episode of Critical Role. Let me know your big theories for Melasmir and what you think is going on. Why would Matt reference Laren if it wasn't for some kind of specific purpose in the future? But I guess we're just gonna have to wait and find out. If you'd like to see more videos deep diving into Critical Role lore, click the video on screen now, where I explain everything we know about the Calamity so far in Critical Role. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe out there. Is it Thursday yet? Until next time, peace, love, Adu.
Wasn't supposed to happen, so much talk around us. We became numb to the yapping. It was like 05, got my license to drive. Picked you up in my pop's car, went for a ride. Couldn't no one tell us nothing. That night was ours. All the